So, King-Ohger episode 9. This episode was a wacky, silly episode, but it also did have some serious moments in there. And that serious moment came into the last couple of minutes of the episode, where we learn about the Ragnarok Slayer's plan and what his goals and his motives is going to do. So, this episode is called Gira on the Run, and as the episode says, it's Gira jumping from country to country, trying to avoid Raculus and his troops. And there was some really funny moments in this episode, I will say that. At the start of the episode, where they sort of tell Gira to stay put, Gira's determined to go back and fight Raculus because he's like, he thinks I'm dead, that's when he'll be least expecting it. And then we get the classic Rita scream where they headbutt Gira and he falls to the ground, and that's when they jump to the opening. But there was a couple of Rita screams in this episode. Some, I feel like, I get it, that's their thing, they scream. It's not an overused joke at this point, because I think they've only done it like 2 or 3 times so far. This episode they did it twice, so I think this is the 4th time they've done it. But I feel like I'm hoping the joke doesn't overstay its welcome. Like, it does catch me off guard because I do watch these episodes with headphones, so when they happen, it does kind of make me jump out of my chair a little bit. But this episode was Gira moving from country to country with the sort of subordinates, which I'm glad these guys got their chance to shine in this episode. Like, I'm glad they sort of weren't shifted to the side and they actually got an episode where they got to hang out with Gira and do their own thing. I mean, Morphina, Sebastian, the guy that hangs out with Yama, the guy with the bag over his head that hangs out with Dabowski. Like, we got to see these characters have some little spotlight in this episode, and I'm glad that Dabowski's guy actually finally speaks, because usually he like replies and nods and stuff, but when he speaks it's like this deep booming voice, and Gira's response when he hears him talk for the first time is like, I like your voice, which got a chuckle out of me because that was just so random as his response as he hears him talk for the first time. He's like, you have a pretty voice. But that guy who voiced not Gira's subordinate, Dabowski's subordinate, is, when I looked him up, he's known for playing Kiba in Naruto. He's also done a few other anime roles, but Kiba seemed like the big main one that he's voiced, so I know him from that. Role. So like I said, this episode was Gira jumping from country to country, but also in this episode, you had the Ragnarok invading all the other kingdoms, and they were sort of fighting it, and as Gira jumped from country to country, the Ragnarok were invading. There was moments where it seemed like Gira's disguise was going to be up, where there's this one where he's got these round glasses on and a hat on, and one of Raculus's guards spots him, and he's like, oh, I know you, you're that famous celebrity, and that's what nearly blows his cover. Which, there was some really cool fight scenes in this episode as the other rangers tried fighting off the Ragnarok. I mean, we got some really cool fight choreography, especially with Dabowski. Dabowski's fighting style always wows me when he's on screen, and we get to see him fight with how he jumps and flips all over the place. That was also really cool to see in this episode. But you also have Dabowski talking with Raculus, which we kind of know what his motives are, which I talked about in a previous video. Like, if you haven't figured it out, Dabowski isn't evil. He's just working with Raculus to get information from him and figure out what the heck is going on. But in this episode, we also got to see Godhopper King-Ohger, where we find out that Godhopper has feelings for Sassorin, the scorpion, which it looks like that, like most of these god bugs are fucking each other, or they have feelings for each other. One has feelings for another. We got a little love triangle going on with these bugs, which is kind of adorable in a way, like they all care about each other, which is nice to see that like these like sentient mechs, these sentient Zords, have feelings for one another and they care about each other, which is nice to see. Like, that is a nice thing to see. Like, they actually care about each other and they have this bond of friendship, which is cool to see. And it looks like next week's episode you're going to see all of them come together, and we'll get God King-Ohger, which I believe it's called, which I'm excited to form once my when my God God bugs come in the mail when they arrive from Toku Collectibles, so it's going to be fun to put those ones together as well. But yeah, this episode had some fun moments in there. Gira had a really good moment in this episode as well, where he sort of talks about the people who protect him and why he protects them. Like, that was a really nice moment in this episode as well, where he gives that speech to Morphina. Now, although this episode, like I said, was wacky, silly, and goofy and had some comedic moments, it did have some serious bits in there, like when you saw the Rangers defending their countries. That was really cool to have them all have this little moment in the episode. The big cliffhanger in this episode is Rita is found bloody and defeated, which was like, oh shit, Rita got defeated. But then you find out that everyone else apart from Gira was defeated by the Bugnarok. And then we see the Bugnarok leader giving his big villain speech to Gira, where he says, we're Bugnarok, we're gonna fuck, we're gonna conquer, and no one's gonna stop us as we launch our giant cocoons across all the kingdoms and take over the world. So that's their big motivation, as they sort of want to take over each of the countries with their power, because they are bugs. Bugs breed a lot, and that's kind of what makes them dangerous, as they multiply in numbers. Now, the thing with the Bugnarok, and as we've noticed, is they've been working in the shadows a lot, and they only come out at certain areas or certain episodes when they want to reveal themselves. And the big main dude has been working in the shadows is something we've noticed. So the dude is super mysterious, but he isn't like loud and in your face and grouchy. He's sort of like doing his big brain move as the show moves on. Now, the big speculation is that Raculus is working with these guys, which is kind of hinted at, because usually Raculus and the Bugnarok are never seen in the exact same place, but it seems that Raculus either is being controlled by the Bugnarok or he made some kind of deal with them. So that's an interesting food for thought with what's going on with the Bugnarok and Raculus. But yeah, the big cliffhanger is like the dude shoots his tentacles at Gira and then the episode ends. Now, it looks like next week's episode we're going to see the team finally come together, as one of the little subtitles in the episode is saying a Sentai team is born. So it looks like our 5 heroes are finally going to join forces and work together, because in the past couple of episodes they've been scattered, they've been doing their own thing, and now it looks like they're finally uniting to work together to fight the Bugnarok, which episode 10 they're finally all coming together. But then in episode 11, from what I've heard, it's when the 6th Ranger is showing up, and from what I've been seeing online, slight spoilers, the narrator of King-Ohger is the 6th Ranger. So I'm curious how they're going to tackle that, because as if you listen to the opening like text for the narration, he always does end at like before the opening kicks in is also I've heard, or also the legend goes, or depending on what translation you get. So that makes sense, and it's someone who's been sort of hearing the story as the show goes on. So that makes sense. If it's like, kind of makes sense that it's the 6th Ranger, but it makes sense in a way that like someone is narrating the story as it goes on, which I'm surprised we're going to find out who it is so far, because it's sort of like the ending of Yu Yu Hakusho. We find out who the narrator for that is, as they break the 4th wall with that. So I'm curious to see how the 6th Ranger comes into being the narrator of the show with everything he's learnt, and will they change up narrators as the show goes on. But that's the story for another day. But anyway, guys, what did you think of King-Ohger episode 9? I thought it was an okay episode. Lots of funny gags in this episode, lots of cool action scenes, especially when we got to see Godhop performed. I feel like the fighting movement for the mech was really great. Once again, the mech fights in this series always impresses me and never disappoints, so it's cool to see some great mech fights in this series. But what did you guys think? Tell me in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions, and with that said, I'm out of here. Have a wonderful day or night, and I'll see you guys in the next video, whenever that might be. Now, I've heard rumblings that episode 10 and episode 34 of Geats are floating around online. If I see them, I'll watch them, but they probably won't drop until they're going to respectively drop in Japan, which will probably be my usual schedule when I drop them. Like, I usually drop them on a 12 p.m. or 12 a.m. on a Monday for me, and then lunchtime in America for you guys, whatever time zone you're in. So I'm aware there's leaks going on, and they're floating around online, but when I watch them, and when I review them, I'll review them, but I'll scatter them out throughout the week and make them probably drop around their usual time when I watch the episodes. I don't want to anger the gods of Toei. I don't want to anger the Shu Toei, God Toei. But yeah, what did you guys think of the episode? Tell me in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions, and with that said, I'm out of here. Take care, peace out, and thanks for watching. Bye!